Hi, I'm Rachel from Away with the Fairies, and today I wanted to talk to you about what is a fairy garden. Now, I know a lot of you might already know, but for those that don't, I just wanted to give you a nice overview of fairy gardening in general. And I'm joined by Bob the dog, who apparently is going to help out. So here's some of the fairy gardens I've made over the last few weeks, just to give you an overview of different types of containers and plants. We've got everything from a herb garden here to a beach theme, with dragons in a cave. So really the sky is the limit with fairy gardening. So we can talk about the origins of fairy gardening, which really started in the US. So we're talking about gardening in miniature. But really you can go back as far as 1,000 years ago with Japanese bonsai, if you're talking about gardening on a small scale. But the US craze has now spread to the UK and Ireland and the rest of Europe, and it's loads of fun. So what we're talking about really is gardening in miniature, usually in a container, but you can use a small area of a flower bed, and you can create fairy gardens for indoors or outdoors, so that's important. So if you really don't have any outside space, you can have a fairy garden inside. So firstly, let's talk about containers. Really you can use anything. We've got everything from these beautiful glazed terracotta ones to more inexpensive plastic ones, things that you can pick up at your local garden centre, or you might already have hanging around. And we've got a little cute teacup style one here, and here, which is quite fun, I've used an old drawer for my fairy herb garden. So wooden boxes, anything like that, just make sure there's a little bit of drainage in the bottom, so create a few holes before you start planting up. So this is the fairy tin town that you might remember from before, which is a great indoor fairy garden using cactuses and succulents. And I use vintage tins and biscuit tins, and it's fantastic for a windowsill or a bedroom. So here's an idea for a fairy garden on a bigger scale. We've used a vintage trunk which I painted up. I then lined it with plastic and filled it with soil. We've been able to use some bigger plants in this, which is great, and a big range of fairy houses. So this one's a bit more like a village. But just to give you some other ideas about, you know, the types of containers you can use, an old bathtub is fantastic, an old sink, you know, really anything you've got hanging around is fabulous for a fairy garden. And as you can see, this one is blooming lovely. So let's talk about some plants that you might use in a fairy garden. I'll show you what we've got in here. We've got everything from a strawberry plant, which is great, we're going to get fruit from that, to a lovely primula that's going to give you some height, a nice pink geranium that's going to give you a good bit of ground cover. We've also got a few alpines, which I love for fairy gardening because they don't get too big, and also they don't need too much water. Well, Bob's not proving to be much help. I think I'm going to have to get a better assistant next time. But listen, let's talk about some of the other plants we've got. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a herb garden here. Another favourite of mine in fairy gardening is sedum, which is a nice succulent that spreads. I use sweet peas for my teepee garden. And a favourite of mine is moss, which is great ground cover for your fairy garden. So if you've got any areas of bare earth, you can just cover them with moss. So the other thing we can talk about for your fairy garden is a fairy garden theme. So for instance, this one I did a beach theme, so it's shells and sand and beach themed accessories. This one was a kind of a fairy garden more aimed at boys, so we did a dragon's cave, a troll bridge, and gold hidden inside the cave. The other thing you can do is maybe pick a favourite fairy tale. It might be Alice in Wonderland or Rapunzel, and then look for accessories or make your own accessories that fit in with that theme. It's a really fun project to do, especially with the kids. Let's talk about accessories next. So I suppose the largest accessory in your fairy garden is probably going to be a fairy house. So there's all sorts of different fairy houses available. You've got solar ones, you've got light up ones, and ones with opening doors that you can put little tea lights into. We made a video before about the solar houses that we sell. So the toadstool fairy house, which is a solar one, it has a little panel on the back, charges up during the day and lights up at night. It's really fun. Then you've got light up fairy houses, which are battery operated. they look great at night as well. You can also get these cute fairy houses with opening doors, which are fun because the kids can play with them, and you can also pop one of those battery operated tea lights into them for the nighttime look. Speaking of nighttime, there's some other glow in the dark accessories that you can get, like these acorn lamps, which are really sweet. So they'll charge up during the day and then just emit a lovely soft glow at night time. Then you've got some architectural accessories, things like stone bridges, hatches, which are really cute, patios. You can get fencing, rope ladders, archways. Got a cute little slide here. So really there's a whole myriad of accessories that you can put into your fairy garden. Then we've got furniture that you can pop into your garden, so everything from cute little rustic fairy chairs to deck chairs that you might put in a beach themed garden. You can get tables and chairs and stools, anything that your fairy folk might need. Then you can add characters to your fairy garden, so obviously fairies. There's lots of cute fairies available. Things that the boys might like: dragons, trolls, elves, all sorts of little characters like that are available. And then we've got things like unicorns, which are a really nice addition to any fairy garden. So I hope this has given you a good overview of what is a fairy garden and given you a few ideas about fairy gardening in general. There's a link below to show you how to make all the individual fairy gardens that you've seen today. So thanks for watching and see you soon.